Tonight, a grocery store owner stabbed allegedly by shoplifters at Riverston. Tragedy on a community footy field. A toddler has died after being crushed. Joe Biden vows to respond after 3 American soldiers are killed in Jordan. New homes bulldozed in our west. Residents who remain are living a nightmare. And Yannick Sinner's praise for the Australian tennis coach who helped him become a Grand Slam champion.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. We begin tonight with shocking footage of the moment IGA staff in Riverston attempted to stop accused shoplifters. Police say the store owner was stabbed during the struggle, but that didn't stop him.
A man runs from IGA. Just behind him, the woman he was shopping with. The supermarket owner is hot on her heels and goes after her, grabbing her trolley. And this is why, clenching his side, he is bleeding. He had just been stabbed twice, allegedly by the man, who then runs back in to try and free his friend, who then punches a young worker in the face, the store owner using a chair trying to defend himself before retreating to safety. 9 News understands this all happened over a jar of Nutella and a pair of underwear that were allegedly stolen. Police say the store owner, Matthew Flanjack, confronted them and was stabbed.
Matthew, he was holding his, the stomach, and he was yelling, "Please call the police, please call the police." Then I saw he was bleeding.
The incident unfolded in front of dozens of witnesses at the Riverston Village Shopping Centre yesterday afternoon. Some of them pulled out their phones to record.
Those that work here say the IGA owner is a friendly person who always takes the time to talk to locals. They say he certainly didn't deserve what happened yesterday.
31-year-old Daniel Jaderi was charged with wounding a person with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. The magistrate told the court that police allege he removed a 25-centimetre silver-coloured knife from his pants and stabbed the owner in the torso. Today, in Blacktown Local Court, he did not apply for bail. The 21-year-old woman, Brittany Bourbon, was charged with assault occasioning bodily harm and larceny, and this afternoon she was granted bail. In Riverston, Maggie Rayworth, 9 News.
A toddler has died at a local football club on the state's mid-north coast. For more, we have Alex Heinke in the newsroom tonight. Alex, the young boy was with his father when a freak accident happened.
He was, Pete, and did all he could to save his son, but the 2-year-old died in hospital this morning. Yesterday afternoon, the pair were at the Old Bar Rugby Union Club, about a 3.5-hour drive north of Sydney. Police say the toddler suffered significant injuries when a scrum machine fell on him. Authorities are still trying to figure out how exactly that has happened. Pete, this is not being treated as a criminal investigation, but as an awful accident.
All right, Alex, thank you. There was an emergency at a Pat Clovelly beach today. A grandfather had a medical episode while swimming there, lifeguards pulling him from the water. He was placed in an induced coma by paramedics before being taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition. After days of ugly neo-Nazi demonstrations on our streets, the Premier has promised that the Nazi salute will be banned. While the salute is explicitly banned in some states, the law is less clear here.
I want to make it clear that if that legal barrier isn't cleared, we will move legislation to outlaw racist Nazi ideology and white power symbols.
The group at the centre of the long weekend rallies today issued a statement gloating about wasting millions of dollars in police resources. Families are on the home stretch of holidays preparing to send the kids back to school this week. But as parents rejoice, drivers be warned. This is the time of year when thousands are inadvertently caught out.
At Beverly Hills North, students are preparing to start the year on the right foot.
Feel happy to be back at school?
Oh, you do? You look happy. And when the bell rings for day one, the Premier wants more families to change their morning routine.
Hopefully, 2024 will be the year of walking to school.
40 years ago, 75% of students either walked or rode their bike to school, a number that's dwindled to just 25% today, mostly because parents worry it's not safe.
This investment by the government is all about starting the journey to fix that.
$10 million to upgrade council crossings and footpaths, with construction to begin mid-year to spur more walking, scooting and riding.
Any encouragement we can give, we believe, to kids being active and walking and having some time away from their devices is really essential and important.
But even before most students go back to school on Thursday, there is a warning for drivers. 40k zones come into effect from tomorrow. More than 3,000 drivers were caught speeding over just 3 days in January last year. Woodville Road at Chester Hill, Princes Highway Cogra, Pittwater Road North Narrabeen, Victoria Road Ryde and Parker Street in Kingswood, the top 5 cameras, fines 70% higher than in February.
We don't want people inadvertently getting caught because they don't realise that school zones are enforced.
So come the morning, slow down, even if there are no kids about. In Beverly Hills, Liz Daniels, 9 News.
And police are urging drivers to take care after an alarming long weekend on our roads. Police conducted more than 122,000 breath tests, charging 244 people with drink driving, while 543 drivers returned a positive drug test. They also issued more than 3,600 speeding fines.
All of these factors are the things that are putting your families, my family, general members of the community, putting them all at risk.
4 people died on our state's roads over the weekend. The federal government says there'll be no changes to capital gains or negative gearing policies in the wake of the Stage 3 tax changes. The Treasurer today ruling out more tax tinkering, but the Prime Minister was reminded of the broken promise at the Australian Open.
Centre stage on the world stage, about to be upstaged over Stage 3 changes.
The Australian Prime Minister, the Honourable Anthony Albanese. The Deputy Victorian Premier.
What are they booing him for? Because, we've got a heap of rich people over there watching the tennis finals there and they've had a bit of their tax taken off them.
I think it's a well-worn Australian tradition and I don't think we should read too much into it.
The Treasurer tonight not reading too much into backbench suggestions of changes to negative gearing or capital gains taxes.
Gone!
Changes that could help first home buyers, but changes that have been rejected at the ballot box.
We're not contemplating or considering resurrecting the policies that we took to the 2019 election.
Maximum should be 2 to 3 houses. That's it, that you can negative gear.
The new Stage 3 tax cuts will give workers on $90,000 a year an extra $37.10 per week. Workers on $190,000 get an extra $87.10 per week. And tonight they're being told not to expect more.
We're not leaving Scott Morrison's tax cuts in a drawer somewhere and hoping to put them in place at some future point.
This is really very bad news for anybody who cares about productivity, to create greater incentive and opportunity, backing aspirational Australians who want to have a go.
With the economy in the spotlight, there's growing confidence in the government tonight that Wednesday's quarterly CPI figures will confirm another drop in inflation. And that would all but eliminate the chance of an interest rate rise next week. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A serious escalation in the Middle East tonight, with 3 US troops killed in a drone attack carried out by Iranian-backed forces. Fears of a wider war are growing, with the American president warning the US will retaliate.
On this remote and dusty compound, 3 American soldiers dead and almost 3 dozen more injured at the hands of the enemy.
We had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls, and we shall respond.
Iranian-backed militants launching a so-called suicide drone from Syria. Their target, a US outpost called Tower 22. It's located on the Jordan side of the Syrian border. Little is known about its operations, but American forces are in place there as part of an advise and assist mission. This is the first known attack on the base.
It's not clear that Iran necessarily ordered this. What has become clear is that Iran has funded these groups, has provided them with weapons.
The drone strike hit close to the living quarters. America can't explain why its air defence systems failed, but the Pentagon and President are vowing to hit back. We will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our troops and our interests.
Here in Washington, multiple US lawmakers are now calling for strikes against Iran. But there's a fine line between needing to respond and forcing an all-out war in the Middle East.
Well, part of our work here is to make sure as things have happened in the Middle East, is not to have the conflict broaden.
Since the conflict in Gaza erupted, America has tried to temper tensions. There have been more than 150 attacks on US and coalition forces, but none were deadly until now. In Washington, D.C., Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
And Alison joins me from Washington, D.C. right now. Ali, the US says it will respond at a time and place of its choosing.
Yeah, good evening to you, Pete. The big question tonight is just how far will US President Joe Biden go? Will he continue to order attacks on Iran's proxies, Pete, like we've seen with the Houthi militants in Yemen? Or will he take it a step further to send a stronger message and order a strike within Iran's borders? Well, Republicans here, Pete, say anything short of a direct strike on Iran would be cowardly. But look, this all comes at a time where negotiators believe they are close to a hostage deal, which could result in the 2-month pause of military operations in Gaza. And any escalation with Iran, Pete, could jeopardise the whole deal.
OK, Alison, thank you. There are a few moments more exciting than buying a brand new home, but that didn't last for some residents in Jordan Springs. When their houses started sinking and cracking, the developer bought them back, fixing some and now planning to demolish more than a dozen.
It looks like any other suburban street, but nobody's home, and they haven't been for years. These Jordan Springs houses deemed uninhabitable, ground settlement issues causing cracking and sinking.
It's been a concerning, ongoing issue.
In 2020, the developer Lend-Lease bought back 50 damaged homes, fixing the cracks and putting some of them back on the market. Veronica and Robert Borland settled in September, satisfied with an engineer's report for their 3-bedder. But last week they got this letter telling them the house next door would be demolished.
Once they start demoing that, the heavy machinery in that is going to impact our property. And we have no insurance.
I asked the real estate about it, and they said it was only 3 to 4 houses affected that demolished. And now you find out this.
18 of the worst affected homes will be torn down, including an entire stretch on Armoury Road, except one family who has chosen to stay rather than battle the property market again.
If we'd have known that house was coming down, it was too badly damaged or not up to standard, we wouldn't have bought this property.
So we're going to lose. We're not going to get what we paid for it. And we're on a pension and retired, right? So, where do you go?
Lend-Lease says it's continuing to stand by our customers and committed to providing ongoing support as we work through the process. The Borlands have now taken it to the Department of Fair Trading. Renters here aren't happy either. Some who moved in just months ago say they weren't told before they signed their lease that half of their street would soon become a construction site.
It would have been nice to have some neighbours in there, but it looks like they're going to have construction instead.
In Jordan Springs, Sophie Upcroft, 9 News.
A woman who has accused rugby union star Kurtley Beale of sexual assault today wiped away tears while giving evidence in his trial. The alleged victim claims she was groped and repeatedly propositioned before the footballer forced himself onto her in a Bondi hotel bathroom.
Kurtley Beale and his accuser face to face in court as she gave her version of a night at Bondi's Beach Road Hotel in December 2022. During questioning by Crown Prosecutor Jeff Tunks, the woman recalled talking to the former Wallaby with her fiancé and discussing their engagement, revealing to Beale that she'd saved a picture from his wedding as inspiration for her own nuptials. During another encounter near the bar, the complainant told the jury Beale grabbed her buttocks. I said stop. He pulled his hand away. When I said stop, I was shocked. I was surprised. Later in the night, she alleges Beale propositioned her before following her into a cubicle in the men's toilets and locking the door. He barely was even looking in my eyes. He just said, suck my I had to say no over and over again. I didn't have time to stop. His went in my mouth. The alleged victim says she pulled away and refused to have sex with Beale, and he looks at me up and down and goes, well, off then. The woman claims she didn't want to cause a scene and even hugged her alleged attacker goodbye. The court was read text messages sent to her sister the following morning which described Beale's behaviour as rapey. The rugby union star has pleaded not guilty, arguing the bathroom encounter was consensual. Tiffany Genders, 9 News.
A P-plater has walked away unharmed from this head-on crash with an allegedly drugged driver at Old Toongabbie. A 43-year-old man allegedly failed a roadside drug test after the crash at Fitzwilliam Road just before midnight. The 17-year-old P-plater was checked over by paramedics after suffering shock. The actions of police are tonight under scrutiny, with the inquest into the death of an Indigenous teenager in Sydney's inner west now underway. 16-year-old Jai Wright died after colliding with a police car in Everleigh in 2022.
Smoke rising over Jai Wright's mob, nearly 100 of his close family and friends. A cleansing ritual at an inquest set to reopen old wounds.
Without them, it would be very difficult for me to get through today.
16-year-old Jai, described as vibrant in court, killed after colliding with an unmarked silver police car while riding a stolen trail bike on the intersection of Henderson and Mitchell Roads in Everleigh in 2022.
Still grieve forever. It's your son.
The coroner hearing the teenager and 2 friends stole the bike, a black Mercedes and a white BMW from properties at Willara and Dulwich Hill. 2 police officers spotting him in Newtown, his friend in the Mercedes following behind. But despite initially activating lights and sirens, the inquest heard police radio then instructed the officers not to pursue. Security footage played in court showed the police vehicle turning in front of the bike as it travelled at speed. No charges have been laid. But if the coroner decides that any of the evidence she's heard could be enough to convince a jury, then she must suspend the inquest and send this case to the DPP. Today, the coroner was told the officer who was driving the unmarked silver Holden had been involved in a similar incident 10 weeks earlier, intercepting another man on an electric bike. Police officers at court as the Wright family set up camp.
I think solidarity in numbers is important. I mean, this is the love that people have for Jai.
At Lidcombe, Ruth Wynne-Williams, 9 News.
Parramatta councillors will tonight vote on whether to scrap a controversial multi-million-dollar partnership with the Eels. The 3-year deal includes adding the council's logo to the back of NRLW jerseys and investment in women's sports scholarships. The first year is confirmed, but the second and third years of the $2.47 million deal could be scrapped. It is time now to check in on today's weather. Good evening, Belinda.
Evening, Peter. Great start to our week. Blue skies over Sydney and temperatures warming up in our west. After a cooler weekend, tops in the low to mid-30s today. Penrith the hottest, climbing to 34.8, which is about 5 degrees above the January average. Overnight temperatures still about 2 degrees warmer than average. Today the city peaking earlier than usual, stopping at 29.4 with some moderate to fresh northeasterly sweeping in this afternoon. And with those moist onshore winds returning, the dew point has shot up again. Last night Badgerys Creek sweating through its hottest night in 3 years, and we're in for another muggy one tonight. So when will we get some relief? I'll be back with the forecast after Sport Peak.
Hopefully soon. Belinda, thank you. Changes proposed to make childcare affordable. Tonight, can the government deliver for families and reduce out-of-pocket costs? The Snowtown Bodies in the Barrels accomplice could soon walk free. Sydney and Melbourne fans clash after an A-League match. And how your morning drink can help or hurt your health. One of 4 men convicted over Australia's worst serial killings could soon walk free. Mark Ray Hayden was sentenced to 25 years jail for covering up South Australia's Snowtown Bodies in the Barrels murders between 1992 and 1999, during which 11 people were killed. This May, he will have served his time and be entitled to release. The state government is seeking legal advice to keep Hayden under extended supervision in the community. Killers John Bunting and Robert Wagner are serving life without parole. A small victory tonight for families battling the high cost of childcare. An investigation by the ACCC recommending a steward be appointed with powers to regulate the industry.
A year-long inquiry, and the ACCC says it's the childcare businesses that are in need of supervision.
We have found that market forces alone are not delivering for all Australians.
A 300-page report proposes installing a market steward with the power to allocate funding, investigate profit margins and apply tighter regulations where needed.
Because we know that reform is needed in this sector.
The inquiry was commissioned after parents copped a 22% increase in childcare costs over 6 years, something industry spokesman Paul Mondo says has been unavoidable.
That those increases are driven by the underlying changes in operational costs.
Federal changes to the subsidy from July have caused prices to fall 11% at childcare centres, but the watchdog and government are now concerned fees will rebound, leaving families worse off.
Every time the government puts more money into early childhood education and care by increasing the childcare subsidy, that money gets eaten up in an increase in fees.
The affordability challenge now means quite a lot of childcare is happening outside centres like this one, by grandparents. 2/3 now provide some sort of childcare, almost always for free. Grandparents like Donna Ganane, who steps in 2 days a week.
I love it. It's just beautiful spending time with the grandkids.
But with not everyone lucky enough to have a Donna, the government is being told to ease the pressure on parents.
When I had my son, I could stay home and we could live on one wage. But how can you now?
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Sydney FC supporters were bashed and chased down the streets of Melbourne after tensions between A-League fans escalated. The brawl leaving security guards injured and Melbourne Victory distancing themselves from their own fans.
Violence erupts in the heart of Melbourne as accused soccer hooligans run amok. One man repeatedly punches another while one fan lies unconscious on the concrete.
We need blue lights right now. We need blue lights.
One group, police believe to be Melbourne Victory supporters, clashed with Sydney FC fans following the match on Friday night. The Sydney faithful were escorted from Amy Park by support marshals when they were chased down Batman Avenue, allegedly by Victory fans. Paramedics treated 2 of the support marshals for minor injuries.
These people are idiots and they spoil it for many people around them, but at the end of the day they are exceptions to the rule.
In a statement, the A-League says it is overall happy with the 18,000 strong crowd, but it doesn't condone violence at any level and will continue to work to create a safe and enjoyable environment, both inside and outside our venues for all fans. Melbourne Victory has told 9 News it's unclear whether its supporters were involved in the brawl. The club says this is now a police matter. Investigators hope that witnesses and victims can help them identify the culprits. Victory supporters are no strangers to controversy after being slapped with hefty sanctions over a violent pitch invasion at the same stadium. A 23-year-old fan was jailed after hurling a bucket of sand at Melbourne City goalie Thomas Glover. Gillian Lantouris, 9 News.
A warning tonight for iced coffee lovers. Cancer Council health experts finding some iced coffee flavoured milks contain nearly an entire day's recommended sugar intake. A 750ml Icebreak regular strength iced coffee has 9 teaspoons of sugar, while Dare Double Espresso of the same size has 7.5. The daily recommended sugar intake for an adult is about 12 teaspoons per day. Next in the news, hoping to outsmart Mother Nature, the Wollongong mathematician turned firefighter who was using numbers and new technology to save homes. Dirty windows? No problem. An Australian first takes to the sky. And the Mona Lisa doesn't look impressed with her serving of cold pumpkin soup.
9 News, brought to you by Australia's #1 selling vehicle, Ford Ranger.
Understanding how fire behaves in a disaster has long been a mystery, but tonight scientists are closer than ever to solving it. The quieter than expected fire season has been a chance to ramp up research, with firefighters warning the threat isn't over just yet.
Take dry eucalyptus.
bake in an oven at 38 degrees. Spread in a combustion wind tunnel.
2 twig, 2 bark.
Add a touch of ethanol.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
And let rip.
We've got 4 corners actually propagating. It's very mesmerising.
This is the Pyrotron at the CSIRO in Canberra, the only research tool of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. It can withstand up to 1,000 degrees.
You do have the opportunity to just watch because it's safe.
It's also much more precise, though field experiments are still critical to the National Research Lab's work. Its team has been leading Australian strategy for the past 70 years, even creating the fire safety ratings.
Providing a tool to fire services that allows them to be able to do their job better.
Dr. Valentina Wheeler, mathematician and volunteer firefighter, enters the equation.
DDT of X equals V times nu.
The formula aims to predict fire spread, which can move differently depending on its shape and accelerates at corners.
It is a chaos sometimes, but it's also like a predictable chaos if you know where to go.
What firefighters are using these days is far more advanced. Nearly every model that we've developed is now being incorporated in computer programs.
Including Athena, the artificial intelligence system rolled out by the Rural Fire Service this season.
The system is able to help us predict what the fire might do and who it might impact.
Also incorporating information on everything from satellite images to fuel loads and the weather.
This gets us on the front foot.
We can thank the summer rain for a less severe fire season than feared, but it has also accelerated grass growth. The concern is with hot weather forecast over the coming weeks, this could become very dangerous fuel.
We could have a late burst of activity, especially if we start to see these grasslands dry out.
But at least they'll have a world of knowledge at their fingertips. In Canberra, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
How do you clean windows on the city's tallest buildings without leaving the ground? With a drone, of course. Australian first technology was tested on the convention centre at Darling Harbour today. The operators say human safety is the obvious benefit of using drones, but it does take the thrill out of high-rise cleaning. There was no smile for the Mona Lisa, the world's most famous artwork, vandalised. 2 protesters were arrested after storming through security at the Louvre. It's the latest in a string of climate-related demonstrations in Paris.
She rests behind protective glass, and for good reason. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa targeted by protesters. The duo hurling soup at the 16th century masterpiece and ducking under a security barrier, their T-shirts bearing the words "Food Response" in French, a climate activist group. What's more important, they scream, art or right to healthy and sustainable food. Museum staff rushing partitions into place and moving visitors on. It comes amid an ongoing protest by farmers who in recent weeks have been using tractors to block roads and slow traffic across the country. They're fighting for more money for their produce, as well as protection against cheap imports and a reduction in red tape. It's a very problematic situation. We want to change that, this food response activist says. It's not the first time the famous artwork has been attacked. In 2022, cake was smeared on its protective glass by a man disguised as an elderly woman in a wheelchair.
No way!
French police say 2 people were arrested over this latest incident. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
At-home medical tests, they made our life easy during COVID. But tonight there is a warning. Some do-it-yourself kits don't work and are a waste of money. Plus the woman who put her body on the line for her dog. He's back from Melbourne. And we're glad to have him back. Where the Australian Open crowned a new star.
Great to be back alongside you, Pete. Yes, Yannick Sinner, a Grand Slam champion, and tonight we hear his praise for the Aussie coach who's helped him reach the very top of the sports. He retired from the NRL. Now the Bulldogs have their say on talk. Tavita Pengai Jr. may return to rugby league. Plus, Sandra McDonald's message to Australia's under-fire batsmen after their summer form slump.
And showers are forecast for Sydney this week. I'll tell you how much rain is coming and when shortly.
Clubs stepping in to fill the gap so more kids can play footy.
We don't want kids missing out on sport because families can't afford it.
9 News, your news.
The new generation of tennis has arrived after Yannick Sinner won his first Grand Slam at the Australian Open, and there was an Aussie coach in his corner making it happen. The Italian battling back to beat an exhausted Daniil Medvedev in 5 sets.
From behind the bushes, tennis's new Grand Slam star emerges. After a night Yannick Sinner will never forget.
Sinner seals the deal with an epic comeback.
I didn't sleep much, but great emotions, slowly realising what I've done. It's a great achievement for me and my team.
In the Italians' corner, Australian Darren Cahill, the legendary coach mentoring another major talent after Andre Agassi, Simona Halep and our own Leighton Hewitt.
He has a lot of experience, which helped us to handle the situation and the pressure in the right way.
Cahill's cool head kept Sinner composed as he fought back from 2 sets down to defeat Daniil Medvedev.
Once you get to a 4th or 5th set, it really just becomes about what lies inside you. And he had the answers inside him.
The 22-year-old's name now engraved alongside Novak Djokovic after ending his decade-long dominance down under. And Sinner says it won't stop here, confident this can be the changing of the guard.
I think the next generation is something what the sport needs.
It's important they do what Yannick was able to do today, and that's to show a side of this young generation that are going to fight to the very end, and they really want to make a name for themselves.
Zach Bailey, 9 News.
Phil Gould says the Bulldogs won't stand in the way of Tavita Pengai Jr. if he returns to the NRL with the Broncos. The former Dogs prop retired from rugby league last year to pursue a career in boxing.
We were all a bit shocked when he gave it away last year, and if he's had a second think about that and wants to come back to the sport, I think the sport will be better for it wherever he goes. But he certainly has our blessing to go wherever he likes.
Today, Raymond Faitala-Mariner was released by the club, joining the Dragons immediately for the next 2 years. He threw a pass to Reece Walsh, but the Broncos got far more out of Tom Brady's visit to Brisbane. The greatest NFL player of all time telling the team what they must do to overcome last year's grand final heartbreak and dethrone the Panthers.
He spoke about when he lost the Super Bowl and, drew parallels to some of our guys when they lost the grand final last year. So, no doubt, as disappointing as it is, we will have learnt plenty from that.
Brady was in Australia for a speaking tour along the East Coast. Australia's batsmen have struggled this summer, but coach Andrew McDonald has called for calm, adamant the new strike lineup will find success. Their form slump helping the West Indies claim their drought-breaking victory, celebrated right around the globe.
Heading home after an historic loss. Australia now looking ahead with no concerns for its new-look batting lineup.
No, definitely not. No, we're not in the mood to change the batting order. We feel like as a collective that unit will be able to have success.
Despite the defeat, Andrew McDonald saw enough in the second innings from Cameron Green and Steve Smith to say their switch is a success.
That's been spoken about publicly around is that the right move, but felt like in this game, and the 91 not out was a significant knock, and the way he was able to control it and give us an opportunity, I think that was a huge positive. Cameron Green got some time in the middle. He can start slow, there's no doubt about that, and that's something that he's working on. Once he's up and going and moving well, it's a pretty good sight.
Marnus Labuschagne not as comfortable. His coach conceding he has fallen into a form slump.
He's been undone by certain plans at times, so there's no doubt he'll be looking into that as he normally does. He'll get busy, he'll get back to work, but there's no doubt that you're going to go through some lulls of form. If you want to call it that. But we expect him to bounce back.
Australia's batting woes were somewhat lost in the celebration of a West Indies victory. And Shamar Joseph.
I still cannot believe it. His life's just like a fairy tale.
The breakout star swapping shirts and signatures with Pat Cummins, arriving in the Test arena where he now wants to stay, despite temptation from T20.
I love it. I love Test cricket. Test cricket is so good. I enjoy playing Test cricket. For my only 2 Test matches I play, I feel like I play 100 Test matches so far. It's just amazing.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
Just hours after the West Indies win, England pulled off a miraculous Test victory of their own against India. After trailing by 190 runs at the end of the first innings, a 7-wicket haul from debutant spinner Tom Hartley saw them claim an unlikely 28-run win. Captain Ben Stokes labelling it the greatest triumph under his leadership. A double dose of heartbreak for Australia at the Perth Rugby Sevens, losing both the women's and men's finals. Our all-conquering women's side went down to the Irish, 19-14 in their decider, in what was Ireland's first ever title on the World Series, before the men lost to Argentina 31-5. The Pumas heading towards the Olympics as the gold medal favourites. The Socceroos are into the quarterfinals of the Asian Cup, beating Indonesia 4-0. It wasn't their best performance, but a pair of late goals was enough for coach Graham Arnold to declare their campaign is now starting to come together.
Stuff that we've been working on at training and with the attacking combinations, probably now the boys are starting to believe more and more in it, and they're working.
Next up, either Saudi Arabia or South Korea. The Diamonds have claimed yet another piece of silverware, winning the inaugural Netball Nations Cup after defeating England 69-49. The world champions were a class above, shooter Sophie Garbin missing just one attempt in the dominant performance, blowing the Roses away. And the stage for Super Bowl 53 is set. The San Francisco 49ers coming from behind to beat the Detroit Lions 43-31, booking their place in the greatest show in sport, where they'll take on the Kansas City Chiefs, who defeated the Baltimore Ravens by 7. Travis Kelce scoring a touchdown before celebrating with partner Taylor Swift on the field at full-time just a few weeks. And Tay-Tay's in our neck of the woods, Pete, after what's been a pretty memorable, though, couple of weeks of the tennis. A great result for young Yannick last night.
And well done to you and the wide world of sports team.
They did a great job. Thank you, Pete.
Fantastic, James. Thank you, mate. Taking medical tests at home has become second nature since the pandemic. But just 10% are worth your time and money. A health warning up next. Not just for teenagers, how grandmothers are taking over the world of video games. And the Australian who has just learned what it's like to live on the moon. The future of much-loved Australian dessert maker Sara Lee and its 53 years of history has tonight been secured. The business sold to a private company owned by Clark and Brooke Quinn, who were involved in the purchase of Darryl Lea when it was in voluntary administration in 2012. Around 200 jobs have been saved. To finance, and another positive day on the share market has put the ASX within striking distance of a new record high. Here's our finance editor, Chris Kohler.
The ASX has now had 6 positive days in a row, taking it within 1% of its highest level ever. But milestones like that get some investors excited and others nervous. The market has struggled to break through these sorts of levels a couple of times in the last few years. Today, the banks and Qantas outperformed, while mining heavyweight BHP gave up some ground, and the Australian dollar is hovering just below 66 US cents. But signs of weakness in the Chinese economy have caused the Commonwealth Bank analysts to forecast a fall. They say by the end of March, one Aussie will be buying 63 US cents.
Thank you, Chris. Let's look at the price of unleaded across Sydney tonight. The average is $1.92 a litre. You can find it cheaper on Victoria Road at West Ryde. Petrol also cheap on Charlotte Street, Ashfield. Online health check tests are a rapidly growing market, with some consumers spending thousands of dollars a year. But experts are tonight warning some may be bogus and potentially doing more harm than good.
Online shopping can be a minefield at the best of times, especially when it comes to your health. Buying direct-to-consumer tests a growing market.
I think the most surprising finding was the sheer amount of tests that are being sold out there.
A world-first study from the University of Wollongong identified almost 500 direct-to-consumer test products available to Australians online, with prices ranging from $12.99 to almost $2,000. It found some commercial health checks had limited evidence behind them, among them tests to determine biological age, bone health, microbiome analysis and sleep quality. Some other tests, many not recognised by the medical community, include hair analysis for food allergies and tests for leaky gut syndrome and adrenal fatigue. The small percentage of online tests found to have potential clinical use include bowel cancer test kits, STI home tests and cardiovascular disease risk factor tests. Following the COVID pandemic, a lot more people feel confident testing at home, which is why this market has grown so rapidly. However, this study found only 10% of direct-to-consumer tests offer any information that can be usefully acted on.
Online testing can be very empowering for the Australian consumer, but at the same time it's got to be treated with a degree of caution.
It's quite important to consult a healthcare professional who can get a better understanding of the context of your symptoms, get a sense of your medical history.
Zara James, 9 News.
Forget teenagers, women over 50 are the new breed of gamers. The shifting demographics have been noticed by developers. They've created a new range of games spawned from puzzles and crosswords on the back of the hugely successful Wordle. More than 80% of Australians play video games. An attempt to intervene in a dog napping has resulted in this wild scene on a Los Angeles street. This woman was eating lunch with her French bulldog Onyx at her feet when someone took its lead and took it to this car. When the woman tried to intervene, she ended up being caught on top of the getaway car. She wasn't seriously injured, but Onyx is still missing. Have you ever wondered what it might be like to live on the moon? Well, one Australian researcher has spent 2 weeks simulating survival up in space, and tonight she's sharing her experience.
It's as close as you can get to moonwalking while remaining right here on Earth.
Okay, we're about to head into a lava tube. It is slightly daunting.
QUT researcher Lauren Fell's passion for astronomy taking her to Hawaii inside a 1,200 square foot dome simulation atop the largest active volcano in the world.
You're totally locked in, so for the 2 weeks you've got this kind of fuzzy window to the outside, or if you step outside you're in a suit, you're in the helmet.
Surrounded by bare, rocky terrain in freezing temperatures, the High Seas Analog Space Research Station is hardly luxury living.
There's a composting toilet, not a flushing toilet. A kitchen, there's an area where we exercise, which we do an hour every day. I just finished my exercise for the day and thought I'd cap it off with a lunar gravity walk.
But Lauren's moon mission was all in the name of science.
Putting some plants on the moon to see if they can grow as a really early step towards having plants more permanently and sustainably.
One small step toward the great leap of supporting human life there too.
Landing on there and living there for a couple of months might be interesting, might be something that I could do.
Abby Guerin, 9 News.
Coming up in our news, back on Earth, Belinda with the weather.
Thank you, Pete. Clear skies over Sydney tonight. Right now it is still 31 degrees in our west, 26 in the city. Northern New South Wales getting a soaking today, and there's more heavy rain on the way. Sydney also in for some showers this week. The forecast is next. Welcome back. A warm and sunny start to the week. Summer returning to our west with temperatures climbing into the 30s again. Penrith hitting 35. That's about 4 degrees above the January average. The city stopping at 29 with moderate to fresh northeasterlies. A fine day for most suburbs. Our outer west and Terry Hills receiving a light morning shower, but only 0.2 of a millimetre recorded. A much wetter day across northern New South Wales. Since 9 a.m, Lightning Ridge recording the biggest downpour with 86 millimetres. Exceptionally high humidity and cloud cover contributing to a very warm and uncomfortable night in that same area. Glen Innes had its hottest night in 10 years and 7 years for Lismore. Today, top temperatures in the northeast corner, cooler than average, but warm and mostly sunny elsewhere. Burke soaring to 41, 38 for Dubbo, which is 5 degrees above average. Even Bega hitting the 30s today. Tomorrow, a trough over Queensland and northeastern New South Wales will linger, bringing high humidity as well as more showers and storms. Brisbane is in for a soaking with 25 to 90 millimetres forecast. A cloudy day ahead for Canberra, reaching 29. Back home, and you can see those scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms up near the Queensland border again. Once again, the Bureau expecting the northwest slopes and plains to cop the worst of it, with severe storms likely to produce heavy to very heavy rainfall. Scattered showers for central and lower northern parts, but fine and mostly sunny in the southwest. Daytime temperatures much like today, or a few degrees warmer. Most inland parts reaching the mid to high 30s. Bega bucking the trend though, about 5 degrees cooler than today. thanks to a southerly change. On to Sydney, and not as sunny as today. More cloud about and a little cooler in our west, but still humid, with some suburbs getting some showers. 0 to 3 millimetres forecast across the Sydney basin. Temperatures dropping a little in our west, with tops around 28 to 30 degrees. The city heading for 29 again, with a light sea breeze. More showers expected on Wednesday, with 0 to 4 millimetres for the city. The cloudy conditions hanging around on Thursday, with a top of 27 degrees. Friday, the pick of the week, mostly sunny and warming up to 30. A cooler start to the weekend, with the clouds rolling in again, more sunshine and back up into the 30s on Sunday. A few more showers for our west as well. Just a possible shower on Friday, and top temperatures all over the place, only making it to 25 on Saturday, but then about 11 degrees hotter the next day. But unfortunately, overnight temperatures remaining above average all week. I'm sorry to say, Pete.
OK, Belinda, thank you. Ali is next with a current affair. That is 9 News for this Monday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.